what was going on here. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were appointed over the Jewish portion of people who were they were still in captivity at this time. They were still in the Babylonian captivity, but they were over the Jewish faction. Well, Nebuchadnezzar had built a giant gold statue, a god, an idol, and he made a decree that everybody, when they hear the music, the horns and all of the music that signals, they would fall down and worship this golden idol. And somebody heard Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego say, guess what we ain't going to do? We are not bowing to any other god. So, of course, and you know, sometimes you have to pay attention to the fact that when people go back and tell on you, sometimes they're doing that to get them some ups with the person they're telling to. So that he would, guess what, King? Shadrach and them say they're not going to bow down. What? Yeah. I mean, you know, I bow down even when they don't make the music. You know. He said, so, but they said they're not going to bow down, and I didn't understand it. So he calls them, and he talks to them, you know. And he says, now, you know, anyone who doesn't bow down is going to be killed. Now, you either bow down or you're going to die. So what's now? Yeah, we're not going to bow down. See, and you know, I believe, because in these kind of situations, sometimes when somebody says that to you and you are that person in that level of power, you think that maybe they don't quite understand what you're saying to them. And so I believe he really, I need you to understand, not only am I going to kill you, I'm going to put you in the furnace. We're going to burn you up. You're going to be alive when you go in there. Because, you know, when you want somebody, and because it's an affront to his position, when these little Rudy Poots refuse to do what he said for them, they're not, these guys are not kings or princes or anything. These are just somebody that I said, be over your own people. So when they said, no, we're not. And he said, well, we're going to throw you in the furnace. He said, and they, you know, and you got to understand this. I think sometimes we think that people back in the Bible, when they do things, don't have the same emotions that we have. But just think about what you would feel when somebody said, I'm going to throw you into that furnace. So, you know, you're shaking a little bit inside. But in spite of that fear and in spite of those natural emotions that kick in, these men said to him, our God is able to save us, to deliver us, if he chooses to. If he wants to, he can save us. And so we will not bow down. Now remember, our thoughts are not like God's thoughts, and our ways are not like God's ways, so we don't know whether he's going to save us out of that or not, because we don't know what his purpose is for us being in that situation. So they were trusting in the face of their fear, in the face of death. They were trusting that whatever happened, it would glorify God. It wasn't. We have to understand that if you're standing up to something and you're standing up because you know you're going to get out of it, that's different than standing up and you have no idea what's going to happen in the next few minutes. So they refused. And he was furious because his people are standing. You know when the guy went and told He told all his other buddies too. He said, man, he done sent for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Well, come on, we got to go see what's going on. You know they were watching. They were, because a crowd had to have gathered, because you know how we gossip when somebody's going to be in deep trouble, and we didn't like them anyway. You know what I'm saying, I've been waiting for this. So when they stand in front of the king and refuse, and all these people are back here hearing them refuse, he's got to do something. He has to do something because he's the king. So he calls his guys, come on, tie them up good. And let them keep on all their good robes, and let them keep all their good clothes on. Yeah. Now, throw some more wood in the fire. No, that's not enough. That's not enough. I want it 7 times hotter than we've ever had it before. Mind you, the guys who was getting ready to throw them in wasn't realizing that they were going to die on the way. But, see, sometimes you have to think about that thing, So they take them. And guys who have them bound, and they're probably laughing and joking. You wasn't going to bow, huh? Well, you're going to burn. So they they was jugging out. And that's, how people have been people forever. So, they were talking to them and making fun of them. And they took them, and when they got to the point where they threw them, they burnt up. That's crazy. That's crazy because, and I'm going to just say this, I'm just about being real. If the first guy that threw the first man in burnt up, they would have to get somebody else to throw the rest of them in there. That's just me. But these guys, unless they was all standing in the same place throwing at the same time, looked like to me somebody would have changed their mind about being one of the throwers. But anyway, they threw them in. And the crazy thing is, now Nebuchadnezzar is watching, and everybody else is watching. This is a public show of what happens if you defy me. See, because when a king does something like this, he wants to make sure that it sets a standard. He wants everybody to know, mess with me, and this is what's going to happen. So they threw him in. King standing there. He sees them throw the people in and drop dead. And then he looks. Hey. Yes, yeah. Didn't we throw 3 people in there? Yeah, yes, we did, King. They threw 3 in there. I see 4. Don't you see 4? And the crazy thing is, and the 4th one looks like the Son of God. Wait. The fire is 7 times hotter, which means the flames are 7 times bigger, and you can see the face of somebody walking in there. And I know it had to make him nervous. Because just think about it now. Your men died throwing them in, and they in there walking around. Make your nerves go a little to the left on you because they might know something I don't know. And then this guy, and he's never seen the Son of God, because nobody's ever seen the Son of, he looks like the Son of God. You seen him? But see, that's how, God is so awesome. God is so awesome that he will give you something, and I know he didn't mean to say that, but he couldn't help but say it because that's what he was looking at. He was looking at them with their Savior. You see what I'm saying? Now, Evidently, the fire cooled down enough for them to get them out. Did you think about that? Because the people who helped them get out didn't burn up like the people who threw them in. See, you have to think about those kind of things. That's how you know God is working in the situation. So they come out. Yes, King. Now, only 3 people came out, though, you know. Yes, King. They don't smell like they've been in the furnace. Their hair is just as smooth as it was when, well, there was afros, you know, because there was us. Their fro looked like it did when they went in. You know, their outfits was the outfits they had on when they went in. So King says, praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, wait a minute. The king doesn't bow to anybody. You do know that. The king doesn't bow to anybody because the king is it. And the only thing that you can give homage to other than the king is what the king tells you can give homage to, which is the golden statue. But the king says, praise be to your God. Who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. So when I was studying this lesson, and this one is about being thrown in the furnace, but I thought about some other challenges that God has given some of his people. And I need you, the reason that I'm going here is because we have to understand that our fiery furnace may not be a fiery furnace, but it's a challenge in the eyes of those watching us who need to see God working in us and through us and rescuing us. Think about this. Abraham. Now, it was a really bad mark on you when you don't have children back then, especially if you don't have a boy. But if you don't have any children, your wife, she can't even sit with the other women because she's not of the same class with them because there's something wrong with her. There's a curse on her or something that she can't have children. And this man who is married to her and being faithful to her, because they probably felt sorry for him, that he's burdened with this barren woman. But God says to him, now the man is 99 years old. He's been without kids a long time. She's 90. They are old. And he says, you are going to have children that the sand, the grains of sand, more than the grains of sand, and the stars, and Abraham being like us, God, I know you God. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but sir, I'm real old, and so is she. And are you saying that we're gonna have kids? Yes. I'm going to bless you, and because the conversation was one of my servants will have to, be over, receive everything when I die. And he said, no. It will be your own child. Sarah, when they told her, because she's 90, she busts out laughing. She's like, And the people thought she was drunk when she went to the temple because she laughed, and they don't know she got a private joke going on. Oh, my God, I'm going to have a baby. I'm 90 years old, and then they try to fix it, and, that goes awry. But she has a baby, 90-something, and he's 100, got to be, They have a baby. Now imagine how, overjoyed. And it was a boy child. So his name was going to be carried on. Yeah, they proud. And God said, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Take Isaac, the one kid you have, the only one that you have, that you didn't have till you was 100 years old. Take him up to the altar and sacrifice him. Think about this. This is, God promised that your seed would be as many as grains of sand. And you kind of question it until, there you go, you got a baby. And then he says, kill him. They're made out of the same thing we're made out of. I don't know what conversation he had with his wife. You know what I mean? Just imagine. And I don't know what his heart was doing while he's walking up that mountain with his boy, obeying God because he is God, not thinking that there's going to be any rescue up there. He is believing because what God said is take him up, kill him. And so he's believing that that's what he's about to do. And when he takes up that knife to stab his boy, the angel says, wait a minute. Don't hurt the boy. There's a ram in the bush. But he didn't know that there was going to be a ram in the bush. What I'm saying to you is this. We have to trust him. We have to have enough faith in God that even when it looks impossible, even when it seems like there is no way in the world that this can work out in my favor, God has laid this on me to do, and I have to do it. Knees slapping each other, heartbroken, sick to your stomach, seeing no hope for anything good on the other side of it. You got to do what he says for us to do. In Acts, Stephen. This man is standing before the Sanhedrins who hated Jesus, and he's preaching about what God has done and how good God is, and they're telling him to shut up. They got their ears, they're closing their ears and saying, shut up, stop, and he won't stop. He went from Genesis all the way through. He's telling them from the beginning. And they get so angry, they start throwing rocks. They start stoning this man. And the man don't stop preaching. He continues to preach until he's laying there at the doorway of death. And what did he do? God forgive them. Don't charge them with this. You know how sometimes we get wounded in the house. We get wounded in the house. And we think that I'm going to try to forgive him, but I'll never forget it. Which means you didn't really forgive him. You know, you're holding it. But God has said for us to pray for those who despitefully misuse us. The people who treat you badly, treat them well. And God, why am I doing this? Because you belong to me and you believe that I'm going to handle this. He tells us that it is not you. They're not mad at you, they're mad at me. So I need you to stand up because you are my representative here. So when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, no, we're not going to bow, they were not standing up for themselves. They were standing up for God. We are going to be called on, if you have not been called on yet, to stand up in an adverse situation where it makes no sense and it looks like this is going to end up bad. And you are going to have to take a stand. Sometimes it's in your home, with your husband, your wife, your children. Sometimes it's on your job. And sometimes it's in your church. We have to understand that just like they are made of this and stood up, and no, they were not da-da-da-da. They were not brave, and they were, that wasn't what that was. Because they said he can if he chooses to. And that's what we have to understand. Look here. We have to understand that when God, if he's given us so many examples in the Bible, that it is not that I know what's on the other side of this battle that I'm about to go into. It's that I know who sent me. And whatever my end is, I know that I have honored who sent me. Because look, Stephen died. Now, God could have kept him alive with all, having been stoned and everything. God could have stood him right up. And my God says, God could have done that. But that was not what was going to happen that time. And think about this. Jesus, the Son of the Most High God, was sent to the womb of a poor, unmarried little girl. That was breaking all the rules. Because now this had never happened. And so there's no way she can tell people, well, this is another one of the Lord's babies. This woman could have been stoned to death simply because she was pregnant. And she could not, anyway, there's no way she could have convinced somebody that she was not pregnant by a human being. But he put his son in her, born of that woman. And from the moment he got here, there was a warrant on his head. Somebody kill him. Jesus didn't have to suffer these things because he's the Son of God. The reason that I believe Jesus suffered the way he suffered is so we would see what it's like. Know that he has been through everything that we're going to go through. He's been through poverty. He's been through being disbelieved, being ridiculed, being thrown out, people coming at him trying to kill him. He went through all of that. This is somebody who never, ever sinned, and they hated him. They looked to kill him at every turn. And then one of his own betrayed him. So there's nothing, we can't say that, but you see, Jesus, he went through it. And then when you think about the fact, we think about the fact that he's Jesus, so he knew he's going to live again and all this, but guess what? Do you remember when he went to the mountain to pray and ask God to do it another way? Because he was covered with the same thing that we're covered with. And regardless of the fear of the flesh, because he was about to go through some of the most painful, humiliating death. But in order that, first of all, we understand that he's willing to do any and everything for us, and that anything that we could say that we're going through, he's been through, he did it. He said, never mind, God. Never mind, Dad. Not the will of my flesh, but the will of my Father. We have to understand, y'all, that life is going to happen to each and every one of us. And life isn't always nice. There are going to be times when you have to go against the grain. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went against the grain. It would have been easy for them to just bow. That didn't mean, if they just did an obligatory bow, it didn't mean anything to them, but just so that the king would leave them alone, they could have done that. But in order to honor God and to prove that they really believed in who he was, they refused. Looking at a furnace, with the fire, the heat from it had to be coming out into the room. And even if you didn't know it in the first place, when it said it heated up 7 times hotter than it ever was, you know that the heat had to be filling the room. And there were people taunting them and waiting for it to happen. The way that they used to wait, and y'all, ooh, when they used to hang us, the way that people crowded around for that as if that was a wonderful thing to see. The humiliation that they had to endure on their way to the furnace, on our way to the tree, and still go. Because they could have said, you know what, King? We change our mind. I get your point. I get your point. Come on, y'all. Let's get out. They could have done that. And they probably would have still been punished, but they would not have been killed, because then they gave back the king back his props, you know. But they stood in the face of their fear. They stood in the face of certain death, because there's no way that a human body can go into a furnace and live. And even saying, my God can if he will. I know that people said some dumb things to him when they said that, because that sounds stupid. So he can keep you from burning up in the furnace. Because their gods were these statues. And their gods had never delivered them from anything. They just gave their gods accolades when they won something or when something went their way. They gave the props to their God. But their God had never actually performed anything. But our God, see, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had something that they didn't have. They had history on their side, because God had been showing up all along. God had shown up when they were captives at the Pharaoh's house. And then he opened up the Red Sea. So, you know, when I know that he's opened up the Red Sea, I can say, if he wants to, he can save me. When we're starving and there's no food and there's no place, this is not even a place where you can hunt for anything, and in the morning, got biscuits and chicken laying on the I'm just saying. When we're dying of thirst, and he said, touch the rock, which is the last place you ever going to look for water. And water comes from the rock. And I remember that somebody told me that this happened when I remember that they said this man was 100 years old and had a baby, and his wife was 90, and that ain't never happened. When I remember that, when I remember that this little boy killed with the jawbone of an ass, he killed something. When this boy took a rock, and a slingshot and killed a giant. And I know about it. And I know that that was my God that made that happen. When we know, and see, wait a minute. And I'm not even talking about y'all looking back into the scriptures. I'm talking about looking back at your house. Because I know your mama did. Have told y'all of times when, baby, it had to be God. I didn't have any idea how we was going to get this or go that way or do that. Or you have in your life, because I have, there's a number of times that I taunted death. Because foolish, smart mouth. I'm working at an ice cream parlor, man, go in the bathroom and shoot in the bathroom wall, right? Me, I was just 15 though, y'all. He come out, so did you kill the toilet? And you have to realize, see, I don't know what y'all street is, but our street was Potter Street, the street that everything happened on. This was on Potter Street. I was working in the ice cream parlor on Potter Street. Well, did you kill the toilet? I didn't know God like I know him now. But when I look back, I know that it was him who kept me with my stupid self. Every woman who has given birth has been at death's door. First of all, how does that even work? That don't even make sense that whole process works. But, since Grandma Eve, her and Granddaddy Adam did what they did, that's how it works. How does a whole human being get here from there? My boys are bigger than me. And most of our children are bigger than us. And we lived through them getting here and did it again. Because we trusted that we could live through this. I don't know about nobody else, but I know I called on him. Because you realize how close you are to not being here. I would walk into a furnace to retrieve my children. And that's who God is. I would walk in front of a bus to grab my child. And that's who God is. I would jump in front of a bullet to save my babies. And that's who God is. So if you think of what you would do in your feebleness, in your weakness, in your inability, if you think of what you would do because of the love that you have, think of the love that God had to have to allow his son to die the most humiliating death just so we could come home to him. That kind of love. If he loves me like that, I got to trust him. I got to trust him. Shadrach and them didn't even have that. Do you understand what I'm saying? We got to understand, if we really start looking into who God is, what he does, and what he has done, what he continues to do, in spite of what we are doing, because speaking for myself, I know I'm not fit for none of it. I know I'm not good enough for what God does for me. Even the stuff that I think. And he still takes care of me. Look, let me tell y'all something. 3 weeks ago, they cut this open and put another knee in here. People don't move like that in 3 weeks. If you want to see a miracle, look at me. And he didn't do it just so I could be comfortable walking around. He did it so you would see who he is. He saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego so you would see who he is and what he is. And just like they said, if he doesn't do it, he can. If he decides to save me from this, he can. There's a whole lot of people that will say to you, girl, I'm on my way. All you got to do is let me know, baby, I am on my way. And you call them. And it go to voicemail. Or you call and they say, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. And they got a whole different kind of clock than you got. Because they never show up. But he shows up. He has always showed up. And he always does what he says he's going to do. And it may not look like what you thought it was supposed to look like. Because some, Lord forgive, I have a nephew who has been angry at God ever since my sister died. Because he said, well, my mama never did anything wrong, and why would God take her? Which, of course, he didn't have any idea what he's talking about, but that was his mama. And I've been praying for him. Lord, let somebody cross his path to see who you really are. Because, see, we look at, when my sister left here, she left here healed. Do you understand what I'm saying? When she left here, she was taken out of that broken vessel. And once again, she was, more than ever before, she was perfect. And yeah, I miss her. And no, this doesn't want to understand. But I know what I know. And I know that he promised that when I leave here, I will be with him. I'm telling you, in Revelations it says he will be there and he will be my God and I will be one of his people. And I will seek him for myself. So no, I'm not saying that it doesn't hurt. And I'm not saying that, man, I would be shaken and probably have to wear some Depends on the way into the fiery furnace. I'm just saying, but what I know is, I don't know whether he's going to save me out of it this way or that way. But I know he's going to take care of me. And that's what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was saying to the king. King, if you kill us, he's still able. If we don't survive the next 5 minutes, he's still God. And knowing that, I know how angry you are, knowing that you're ready to throw us in, and I know that you're going to throw us in his fire. Not going to bow. Because my God is the Most High. He created heaven and earth. He breathed life into dirt, and it became a living being. He allowed my mother and father to bring me into this world. And he allowed me to live and know him for myself. So what I'm saying to you is, life is going to happen. Don't despair. He's still God. And all you got to do, if you're more than 10, 11 years old, is look back a little bit. And you'll see that he's done some things. If you've ever been, oh man, you ever been broke and don't have a job? And the heat man and the light man and the water man still want their money. And you trying to figure out those little things. How many of you woke up this morning? Because, see, when you go to sleep, there's no promise that you're going to wake up. And there's no promise that when you wake up that you're going to know that you woke up. I'm just saying. There are people who walk around and don't know that they're here. This thing hurts me so bad at night, y'all. I have a whole lot of conversations with the Lord through the night. But, know what I'm glad about? I know I'm in pain. Think about it. Think about it. Because there are people in pain that don't know they're in pain. I think one of the loneliest diseases in the world is Alzheimer's. Because you're in there and you're lost. And every once in a while you'll surface for a moment, but then you go back into the fog. And I think about the fact that I don't care how much I'm hurting or how much my feelings have been hurt or what the world is doing, because this world is crazy right now. Man, he's still God. And I'm still here. And I still know that I'm here. And I still know that he's God. Do you know how good it is to be able to look at somebody, say, how you doing? And they smile at you because you spoke to them. Do you know how much of a blessing that is? To take a breath and you didn't have to buy it. And you don't owe nobody for it. and you can take another one whenever you choose. Do you know how blessed you are that you're sitting here now able to study about the Lord? Because there was a time where you weren't allowed to read in the first place. And what you read when they did allow you to read were 2 or 3 little pieces that kept you subservient so that you didn't get out of pocket. There are people right now today dying because they want to worship. Dying because they claim Christianity. Dying because they claim God. And yeah, it's bad out there, y'all. And you got to lock your doors and get your security and all this different stuff. And people are doing all kind of crazy stuff. But guess what? When you lay down, you're going on to sleep. Not concerned about anything that's going on around you. And I don't know if you pay attention to the fact that what's going on around you is being handled by somebody while you sleep. And if he will, I know he can wake me up in the morning. And if he will, I know he can allow me to come into the house of praise and worship. And if he will, I know that he can allow me to know that somebody cares about me, somebody loves me. Even though my family has thrown me away, he's given me somebody who loves me. He does that for people. That's why he said, forsake not to assemble yourselves. Because sometimes this is the place where you find that love that you're supposed to find at home. He's that kind of God. He meets a need that you haven't even said anything to anybody about because you're embarrassed to tell somebody how you feel. But because we have somebody standing in the gap saying, Lord, Dad, this is what she needs right now. And he's like, here, give it to her. And he lovingly gives it to us. And all he asks is to give him his praise. Walk in it, live in it, be the lights. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were they are shining bright lights, especially when they came back out of the furnace, looking the same way they did going in. Let us try to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when the world comes at us and tries to convince us that God is not God, that tries to convince us that if you play this number, everything will be fixed, or try to convince us, and I want y'all to be aware, try to convince us that I'm in Africa and I can't get there, but if you send me some money, because I'm a millionaire, and all you got to do is send me a couple dollars, and I'm going to come and we're going to split my $1 million money. Ask God about it. Ask God about it. And I mention that because it's so rampant right now that they're coming at us from all directions, especially us older people who are lonely and don't have anybody. They will come at us, and they will destroy us because we forget who we are and who we belong to. We got a company keeper. And yeah, I want to be with people sometimes, but I got somebody who's with me all the time. And when I'm ashamed to holler in front of you, I'm not ashamed to holler in front of him because I know he understands. We have a God who loves us right where we are, but he refuses to leave us where we are. He daily feeds us, cuts off the things that don't belong to him, fixes us up, heals us, and helps us. So let us give him praise. Let us give him the honor due him, and let us be the lights he has called us to be. I am Shadrach. I am Meshach. I am Abednego. And I was not burned by the fire. Let us bow. Father God, thank you. Father God, thank you for loving us enough to see past our faults, for covering us with the blood of Jesus, washing us clean enough to be called righteous. God, I thank you that you have decided that we belong to you and that nobody can take us away from you. Father, even when we try to let go of your hand, you said that no man can take us out of your hand. So I thank you for holding on to me, Father, when I try to let go. I thank you for holding on to us, God, when our faith starts to fail. And I ask, God, help by reminding us of who you have been in our lives and who you have given us